Good morning, shall we start? Right. So we are in the discussion of the computation of non-resident taxation. Right. So last week we have discussed the application of double tax evidence agreement. Right. You can with regard to the double taxation, how to avoid double taxation. So treatment. So today actually the main objective of the discussion or the learning of the double tax avoidance agreement, how we can eliminate double taxes. What are the methods available to we to eliminate double taxes, right? So if we go with the initial discussion, say country one, country two. For resident person in country one, he will be a non-resident person. Non-resident person country two. If he receiving income from country one, following the resident principle, he is liable for tax in country one, right? 30% tax rate. If we are having another income from country two, until their tax rate is 30%, 20%, she has to pay tax in the country two on the following the source principle, tax in country two. Right? Because he is a resident to country one, he may have to pay tax on this amount as well, where he received from country two. Because in case of the resident person, he will be liable for tax as per the domestic law in Sri Lanka context, wherever the source arises. Therefore, income arises from country one as well as income arises from country two. Both are considered in determination of the tax liability of the resident person in the country one, right? He is paying total tax of 45 rupees in country one, 110 rupees in country two. Altogether, 55% he is paying, 55 rupees he is paying that. So now, because of this double taxation, because the same income source tax at two register, two countries, tax jurisdiction, right? So therefore, countries has been, they're coming for a agreement to avoid double taxation. That's why we learn double tax avoidance agreement. If they reach that agreement, so then there is a possibility of eliminating double taxation, because main objective of having a double tax avoidance agreement, the name itself says evidence of double taxation. Evidence of double taxation. You may learn some area you can see that in case of the business income, it says it is taxed only in the country where residence, unless that person is doing business through a permanent establishment in other country, other contracting state. That's how we learn, right? In some instances, yeah, in case of the church, just like the passive income, just like say interest, dividend, that type of thing they are telling. So it will maybe taxed in the other country, but the maximum tax rate they are giving. Maximum tax rate, right? And also the important point, to person to get that benefit under the double tax avoidance agreement, he shall be a resident person of the contracting state or other contracting state. Definitely, that benefit is available only for resident person, right? So it means that say, like in other countries there, that is country three, third country. If a person doing business through this country with other country, right? So he is a resident of country three, third country. But he is doing, because assuming that no double tax country with agreement with country three and country two. we can come to country one and set up a temporary business arrangement, and from there we can do business. In some such instances, this person may not enter for double taxation. That benefit between the agreement having country one and country, because he is not a resident of this country, but if he is become a resident, yes. And also, you remember another one important concept we discussed: beneficial owner. Say beneficial owner of the dividend, beneficial owner of the interest, beneficial owner of the royalty. That concept we discussed. Beneficial owner also the same thing. If that particular income received by this, right? Say this, there is a permanent establishment, whatever this, right? But ultimate owner of that income is this person. Therefore, that benefit is not available. Beneficial owner means ultimate the legally who has the right to get that income, enjoy that income. Yeah? So that's why these concepts are very important. It's there in the now in our act also, because it is very developed act, included to me. Because considering those, they are following those concepts. Fair value based concept, right? And beneficial owner, that what the residential principle. They are very in the very they have gone much weighted on those concepts, right? So we have discussed this thing. Now we'll go to the focus on today's discussion. Now, how to eliminate double taxation? Because these type of things are happening in the international context. We call conduit company. Conduit company. It's a pipeline to get benefit. They are setting up a pipeline outside that two countries. Right? Pipeline. So you know that to avoid taxation, these things are happening, but it is not encouraging. That's what I am telling. Double tax avoidance agreement not encouraging avoiding tax. But that's a fiscal evasion. Avoid fiscal evasion. Fiscal evasion means that tax base is filter or the route to another country where that real benefit is not available. Right? Just like we call letterbox company. There is only registered office, no any functions happen. Therefore, the beneficial owner is not that particular person, some other person outside that territory, two countries, right? So those type of things are not encouraged. Say you remember, so whatever agreement we discussed is narrated or the what is the agreement name is evidence of double taxation and fiscal evasion. Fiscal evasion means that tax base we call base eroded. Tax base is shifting to another country without paying proper tax. Correct tax. That is not allowed. It is prohibited. Right? So, how to eliminate double taxation? So, agreement itself says elimination of double tax, they are logging the agreement itself. Right? There are two methods. First thing is the exemption method. Exception method. So that means if one country is taxing, other country gives the exemption. Right? Say source country they are having a taxing right, so therefore they are taxing the source country. So resident country they are not taxed. They are giving exemption for that particular income. Right? And other method is credit method. Tax paid in this country can consider as a tax credit to this country. Tax is paid in other country, but we are giving tax credit in country where he is the resident or other country. Right? Basically, the resident country. Because source country, the tax paid in source country, resident country, he can get tax credit. You can see that is there in the international law also. Foreign tax credit. It says foreign tax credit. That is the definition. That one then. Tax law is now in Sri Lanka tax law is also considered in that part. Previously we didn't have, but even before that, the agreement discussed giving tax credit, foreign tax credit, right? So under the exemption method, there are two. The thing I have discussed, I'm going to discuss full exemption or exemption with progression. Right? Full exemption means we are not considering income received from source country. Income received from source country, we are giving full exemption. Exemption with progression means we are considering that income in determining the tax rate if there are two different tax rates, but we are not taxing that income. Right? Credit method means under the credit method, as I mentioned, we are giving the tax credit which that particular taxpayer paid in other source country. Right? Under that method, full credit method means we are giving full credit. Total tax paid as a tax credit. Second thing is ordinary credit method means where the resident person is liable tax on that particular income. Up to that amount, they are giving tax credit. Right? Yeah. Now, basically, they are following two methods in elimination of double taxation. One thing is exemption method. Other thing is credit method. Under the exemption method, we are not considering that particular income when we compute the tax slab of the resident person. If that income is from other country, right? Source country we call. Resident country give the tax exemption to the person, to the resident person, received from other country, right? So that's the full exemption method. Exemption is progression means when we consider the total income, we consider that income, but we are not taxing that. But if there is a different tax rate based on their total taxable income, then we are accounting for that one to determine what is the tax rate that need to be applicable. To that purpose, we are considering that. Right? Under the full exemption method, we are not completely considering that income. But say in this company we say in this country we say two tax rates, say 30% in case of the income say below say 100 million. Otherwise, it is 40%. Taxable income, if it is below 100 million, rate is 30%. If it is more than that, rate is 40%. Exemption means full exemption and the full exemption if you are giving, we are not considering this income. Right? But in the progression means when we are determining this threshold, we consider that income. There we are applying the rate. But we are not taxing that income in this country. Anyway, that is excess. Right? Under the credit method, we are giving full credit here. Say this country, that tax rate is, we'll assume they are liable for tax at 20% in this country, but this country is 30%. Under the full credit method, the 30% tax rate is given as tax credit here. Right? Another thing, ordinary credit method, we are giving tax credit to maximum rate, we are giving up to 20%. Another thing we are not. Reason is that, the thing is that the taxpayers pay tax in other country. So this country anyway that they cannot get that tax, right? Because it is issued to another country. Right? Most of agreements they are following this the ordinary credit method. Some are following that. So we'll look into some examples. So then we can understand. Right? So under the exemption method, the full exemption method. Under the exemption method, the state of residence does not tax the income. If according to the treaty, such income may be taxed in the other contracting state. Full exemption method, state of residence does not tax the income received from source state. Example A, we'll work out that. Example 1. So example one, A is a resident. He is a resident of country R. R. Received an income of 80,000 from R. He is receiving income 80,000 from resident country. Income. Right? Or where the tax rate at R is, if the income is less than 100,000 is 30. The income tax rate less than 100,000, 30%. Otherwise it is 35. Hundred thousand no, 100,000 more than 100,000, 35. Right? And he received an income of rupees 20,000 from state S. Another state S. He is receiving income of 20,000. Where the applicable tax rate is 20%. Tax rate here is 20%. Right? Now we'll work out the tax liability. Now he has to pay tax in the country, source country, where he shall be considered as non-resident person. He received income of 20,000. On that 20%, he has to pay 4,000. Here. Correct? Because this country tax rate is 20%. He received 20,000, 4,000. This country, he has to pay 8,000 anyway on that 30%. Right? He received this 20,000 here. Under the full exemption method, we are not considering this 20,000. Right? Anyway, we are not considering that 20,000. Therefore, to this country, his total taxable income is 8,000, which is not less than 100,000. Therefore, we can apply 30%. Right? Now, his tax liability here is how much? $24,000. Right? Correct? Yeah, correct. Now, altogether, total his tax liability is how much? He has already paid 4,000 here, 24,000 here. Already, what is the country? R he has paid. He received R 8,000. On that, he has paid 24,000. Country S, he received 20,000. On that, he has paid 4,000. Altogether, 28,000. Right? If that credit method is not available, what is the tax? If no DTA, R he has to pay how much? Country R. Country R he received directly 80,000 on that 24%. Sorry, 80,000, and country S he received another 20,000. Altogether, to country R he received 100,000. Because it is not less than 100,000, tax rate is 35%. He has to pay 35,000 here. Country S 20,000 on that 20%. 4,000. Altogether 39,000. If there is no double tax avoidance agreement, right? He has to pay 39,000. But because of double tax avoidance agreement, now he is paying only 28,000. We give the full exemption for this income. Full exemption for this income. And therefore, he has only paying 20% country S and 30% country R. Is that clear? Now that person A is a resident person of country R. He is receiving income of 80,000 from country R. Right? So in the country R tax rate, if it is less than 100,000, 30%. If it is equal or more than 100,000, 35%. Right? Country S tax rate is 20%. He is receiving 20,000 from country S, where he shall be considered as a non-resident person. The fourth country is paying therefore 20% of that. 4,000 is paid. He has to pay. But in country R, we are giving full exemption. So we are not considering this income. Therefore, he is paying only tax on that income received from resident country, 80,000. Because of it is less than 100,000, 30% tax rate, he is paying 24,000. So altogether he is paying 80,000 on that 24%, 24,000, 20,000 on that 4,000, 28,000. If no double tax avoidance agreement is available, because of his resident, his total income in the resident country, he received country R from country R 80,000, country S 20,000. So it is more than or the equal 100,000. Therefore, tax rate is 35%. Right? But he cannot afford tax in this country as well. He has to pay another 20% of 20,000. So altogether 39,000 he has to pay. So difference is how much? 8,000, right? 11,000. Here, if there is no double tax avoidance agreement, additionally 11,000 he has to pay. Right? 11,000 he has to pay additional. Yes. This one. So this thing what we did. So in the country R 100,000 into 35%. Country A 20,000 20%, 39,000. And we are using double taxation. That amount is the taxation on the saving because of the DTA is 11,000. That is under the full exemption method. Right? Full exemption. Clear? Clear? Right. So under the same scenario, another example. Right? It says, example 2, A is president of the state R, A is president of the state R, received an income of rupees 8,000. Where the tax rate at R is the income is less than 100,000 is 30%. So otherwise it is 35%. Same thing. And he received an income of rupees 20,000 from other states. Yes, where the applicable rate is 40%. In this context, this rate has been gone up to 40%. Here tax rate is 40%. Right? It is 40%. Compute the benefit, assuming that full exemption method is available. Compute. Try that. Try and compute that one. I have changed only that those country applicable tax rate. Assuming that full exemption method is available and compute that tax rate. What is the answer? Total tax liability 32,000. Saving it. If not DTA available. Yeah, ma'am. Here and now tax liability how much? Here to pay anyway. Because it's a source country is nothing, yes, we have to pay tax. Here 8,000. Just pay 8,000 here. Anyway, this country has to pay only 24,000, right? No tax. But he has already paid here 8,000. Therefore 32,000. But if no double taxable agreement is available, he has to pay 35,000. There is no change here. 40%. That 8,000. 43,000. Whereas because of the we have DTA, total tax exposure is limited to 32,000. Therefore, saving is 11,000. Right? That is under full exemption method. So we are not considering income received from source country when determining the tax liability or the tax rate on the resident country. So that is full exemption method. Right? We'll see. So exemption with progression. Under the exemption with progression, when we are determining the tax rate, we consider that income received from source country. If there are the two tax rate in current. Currently in Sri Lanka, we don't have a different level tax rate. Right? Previously we had. So up to say taxable income 5 million is the more than that it is high tax. Right? So in such circumstances, how that tax computation will work out? Right? So yeah. Yeah. Yes, it should be. So that no 20,000, right? 20,000 40. Sorry, 40,000. Rate 40%. Income ఏమవుతుంది? Right. So in this the second scenario, so exemption is progressive. Right? If there are differential tax rates based on the taxable income, if there are, we account that income. We determine the tax rate, that income, but we are not taxing that income in the country where the person is resident. That is a just like as I earlier. If there are different tax rates based on the taxable income, right? Say taxable income up to 5 million is rate 20%, more than 5 million is 20%. Likewise, right? If there is differential tax rate where the person is resident is applicable, in determine the tax rate we consider that income. Only to determine the tax rate, right? So the same thing. So if this country is receiving 80,000, yeah, if that income is equal or more than 100,000, if it is less than 100,000, the rate is. But question?
Online ഇന്നേക്ക് വാങ്ങിക്കോളൂ.
Yeah.
Online ഇന്നേക്ക് വാങ്ങിക്കോളൂ.
Yeah. Somebody online. Somebody having question? Oh, fine. In that context, this country tax rate is 20%. This country tax rate, there are two tax rates based on his total income. If it is less than 100,000, rate is 30%. More than 100,000, rate is 30%. Right? In the country, those country tax rate is anyway 20%. So we'll work on the tax liability. This country has to pay anyway on 20,000. Tax rate at 20%. 4,000. This country says if his total income is less than 100,000, rate is 30%. Right? Country R he receiving 80,000. Country S he receives 20,000. His total income is 100,000. Therefore, when we determine his tax rate, his total income is more than 100,000, not less than 100,000, not less than 100,000. 100,000 and more than 100,000, rate should be 35%. Therefore, he is liable for tax on 80,000 into 35%. Right? We are not taxing this 20,000, but when we are determining the tax rate, to determine the tax rate, we consider that income. Only to determine the tax rate. That means we are not taxing that income, right? We are not taxing anything to anybody because it is anyway exempt. We consider exemption. But when we are determining the tax rate, we consider it that income as exempt income is always accounts when we are determining this tax rate. The total earning is 100,000. Therefore, tax rate should be applied 35% on the liable income only. Right? So what is the tax amount? What's the tax amount? Income is 35%. $28,000 you have to pay in here. Here you have to pay 28,000. Here you have to pay 4,000 anyway. Now total tax liability. Country R, he received 8,000. On that 35%, that is 28,000. Country S, he received 20,000. On that 4,000. 32,000. Is total tax liability. But if no DTA available, no DTA available, where he resident, country R, he received country R, 80,000. And country S, 20,000. All to the 100,000. 35%, 35,000. Country S, anyway, he has to pay 20,000, 20%. 39,000 he has to pay. Because of he has DTA, he has to pay 32,000. Still he is getting benefit. So the exemption method we are not considering, we are not taxing that income in the resident country, but in determining the tax rate, we account for that. Only to determine the tax rate. It's a differential tax rate. Right now in Sri Lanka we don't have, previous actually we have. We call that marginal relief and all those things that goes there. Very old concept. And also the SME sector, previously says there is also the entity is doing business only in Sri Lanka. They are doing business in other countries, that the SME rate also not available. Now we don't have that differential tax rate, it's flat rate 30%. Is this clear? You learned that concept, right? This concept they are only when determine the setting up that how to element the double taxation to incorporate to the double taxation factor. The same example will do with the progression. Still he is getting 7,000 tax benefit, right? No double tax free available. And this example, the same example as you work out with the progression. Equal to equal or more than. It says less than 100,000 income 30. And 100,000 income 35. I mean, later with the one turn is not coming up. Income so yeah, the karma of 100. Hello? Yes. That is the total tax exposure with with DT. That's the 39 jobs, right? Yeah. Good. So that you can see that. I mean, the with that අනිත් country tax rate එක වැඩි වෙනවා කියලා benefit එකේ මොකක්වත් impact කරන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ feeling that maybe. ඒ 20 බලනවා 10 බලනවා 50 බලනවා benefit එක තියෙනවා. Ini uncapping income reduction. Eight method dengan factors. Ada ini. मैं आप income में कर देगा. दोस्त का नहीं income का है. एक factor. तो अगर business income में अभी article 7 के क्या? permanent tax ambition නැත්නම් ඒ country එක අපිට ඒක අපි මේ tax කරන්නේ. ඒක tax කරන්නේ නැහැ country. ඔයා බලුවොත් ශ්‍රී ලංකා UK agreement එකේ ගොඩක් ඕක දිනවා. පරණ agreement එක. ඒකේ තියෙනවා ඔයා මේ income එක tax වෙන්නේ only UK, only ශ්‍රී ලංකා. එහෙම කියලා කියනවා. country දෙකේම tax වෙන්නේ. අනිත් හැම එකේම දැන් බලුවොත් dividend income එකේ කියලා okay tax only tax maybe tax කියලා වදින් tax වෙන්නේ එක country එකක. shall be කියලා වදින් අනිත් country විතරට. එක country එකක් අතහැරලා. China Sri Lanka agreement එක service fee එකේදී කියනවා shall be tax only in China. එතකොට ඊට විතරයි tax මේ tax එන්නේ. or shall be tax only in Sri Lanka. China වල tax එන්නේ. එතකොට මේ country විතරයි. සර් මේ ලෝ එකේ ඉන්නේ tax එන්නේ. Right? අපිට මේ අර foreign source income එක අපි tax exempt කරන්නේ. Within අපි income tax comparison we learned that source of income even in service fee service income received from outside Sri Lanka in foreign currency to Sri Lanka it is fully exempt in Sri Lanka. ලංකාවේ tax exemption එක දෙනවා. that as per the domestic law. ඒ වගේ DTA එකේ දානවා මේ tax කරන්නේ exemption. Right? This is the we are not considering the source country income when we are determining the tax liability of resident land. Right? And here, what we change the tax rate, right? Only 40%. Here, 40%, right? So, no, 40. $8. Make a 28,000. Make 8. 36. Vote free. Right? But in that context, that 80,000 anyway tax at 35%, and 20,000 tax at 8,000, 8%. No, sorry, 40% at 8,000, 36,000 total tax exposure. If not ETA available, his total income in country, resident country is 100,000, then tax at 35%, 35%, 35,000. Those country anyway he has to pay tax at 40% on that 20,000, 8,000, 46,000. Still that same tax benefit 7,000 is there available. Right? So that is exemption is progression. So progression is applicable if that the two different, the two grades based on some threshold, taxable income threshold. They are in the country, he is resident. Country, ऐसे क्या पड़ा था ना मुझे, ऐसे कि क्या अपना tax है given no, so country tax है ना given था, right? Right. So another credit method, we'll see. Another credit method. So tax paid in country yes, for the resident of those country, we are giving tax credit at the resident country. But in the resident country, those country income is reported. We are taxing total income. So the resident is he received resident country income as well as the country income, both we are considering and we tax that one. What the tax is paid in the source country, we are giving tax rate, full tax rate. Right? Total tax is paid in the source country, we are giving as the tax rate. Right? Same example. So our country, he is receiving 80,000 from source country. S country he is receiving 20,000. Right? So this country tax rate is 20%. Therefore, he is paying 20,000 at 20%. 4,000. He has to pay. So this country, country R he is receiving 80,000. Country S he is receiving 20,000. Altogether he is receiving 100,000. Right? We tax him. Right? We tax him. Therefore, income is 100,000. Tax at 35%. 35,000 we are paying. We are taxing. The 20,000 also we are taxing. Yeah. Right? In the country, yes, he has already paid 4,000. 4,000. So how that this thing is taxed? This is also taxed at 35%. This is also taxed at 35%. That's how this 35,000 came. Right? So we are giving tax credit. Yeah, he paid tax at country as a full credit. We are getting full credit. He has already paid 4,000. Now he has to pay 31,000 in country R. Right? Ultimately, he is paying 35,000. Anyway, he is paying 35,000. Right? In that context, total income is 100,000. We are considering. We tax that amount 35,000, and tax paid country as source country. We are giving as a tax credit. That is full tax credit. We are giving 4,000. Therefore, his total tax that to be paid in resident country is 31,000. He has already paid another 4,000 in the source country. That is for that is on the source income. That country also he has to pay. That 4,000 is paying anyway. Total tax is tax exposure is 35,000. One country reviewer they are given maximum 35,000. So we are giving tax credit. Then full tax credit. So say we are receiving income from Bangladesh, right? as for the Bangladesh tax law, the source country, they are collecting tax. So that tax we can claim Sri Lanka. Right? Therefore, if we have a double tax avoidance agreement with full tax credit, we can claim tax paid at the country where that income is generated. The source country tax credit we can claim from resident country. The danger එක මොකද? එක country එක ගෙවන්නේ අනිත් country එකෙන් tax credit එක ගන්නවා. You know that in the double the withholding mechanism. The under withholding tax in Sri Lanka, if we are paid on our tax on our salary, we can claim the credit. Likewise, two countries involved. One country is paying, other country is giving the tax credit for that income. Right? If no DTA available, how much the total tax exposure? We are receiving 80,000. Country S is receiving 20,000. Altogether 100,000 at 35%, 35,000. Country S 20,000 into 20%, 4,000. $39,000. Right? 39,000 is no DTA. But because of the DTA, its total tax exposure is limited to 35,000. 35,000. So that 4,000 is getting benefited. Right. We are a country, a source country in activity medical ones. Tax rate increase, so source country tax rate is assuming that it is 40%. Installer breakup for that. You have, right, already? Fine. And then the envelope. I will share the format. The format that you complete that. How much? So country R he is receiving 80,000 on that 35%. Country S he is receiving 20,000 on that 35%. Right, because we are not giving exemption, we are taxing that amount. We consider we tax that amount. Total 100,000 35% on that. We have 35,000 tax. Where country S he has already paid 8,000, right? 8,000. Therefore, we are giving tax credit here 8,000. $27,000. Total tax liability he has to discharge in the resident country is 27,000. He has already paid 8,000 in the other country. Altogether, total tax is how much? He has already paid. How much? Total tax. Tax exposure is anyway 35,000. Right. If no DTA is available, $42,000. Anyway, here the total tax liability is 35,000. Now remember, in this context, at the country or this resident, he is claiming a tax credit. He is claiming a tax credit more than the total tax liability in that particular country. Because this country, yeah, pay karana, me country ke tax pay karana in here 20,000 and 35%. 7,000 he has to pay. He has to pay 7,000. But he is claiming tax rate of 8,000. That's done. So a country, me country ke tax එක me country claim කරනවා. But cash flow එකෙන් බලුවොත් country ke cash flow එකෙන් බලුවොත් they are losing. But that double taxation is avoiding. දැන් යා ඇත්තටම resident country එකේ tax එක ගෙවුවනම් යාට ගෙවන්න දෙන්නේ 7,000. 20,000 වලට 35% ඒ country එකේදී ගෙවන්න තිබුණේ. යා claim කරනවා 8,000. So the source country ke tax rate is more than the resident country or the higher than the resident country tax rate. Right? Clear? මේ country දෙකක් බලුවාම දැන් අපි හිතුවා අපි දැන් මෙයා මේ country එකේ මේ 20,000 tax කරා එයාට ගෙවන්න වෙන්නේ 7,000. Correct, right? හැබැයි යා tax credit එක claim කරනවා 8,000 එකක්. අනිත් country එකේ ගෙවපු 1,000 රුපියල් 1000 පරිපූර්ණ ගෙවපු tax එකත් මේ country එකෙන් claim කරනවා. දැන් මේ income එක මේ country එකට ගෙවන්න දෙන්නේ 8,000 years paid to another country. Credit is claimed from resident country. Okay. So practically how that tax credit is claimed. All claim can belong. Over then in the say within the country, say in our own salary we are paying taxes. So we are providing our tax certificate. T10 certificate. That T10 certificate is lagan. This one certificate is lagan our tax rate. The same country ඇතුළේ තමයි සල්ලි තියෙන්නේ. And මගේ income එක යන fill that from the fixed deposit which I have in a bank. So 100,000 interest income I am receiving. On that bank is deducting 5%. So I have to pay 5,000 with a advance income tax at the time of getting that income from bank. That income I have to consider in my tax calculation. I have to tax and I can claim tax credit. अब country එක ඇතුළේ ඒ country එක ඇතුළේ තමයි සල්ලි කරගෙන. That's what it says mode of payment. tax pay කරන එක mode එක. ඒ country එක ඇතුළේ මොකද bank පොඩි ඩක් කරලා කිව්වත් මං ගෙවුවත් දෙකම එකයි. Sri Lanka government එකට tax එක ගන්න. But in this country he is paying say another country say India tax එක pay කරන India ලංකාවෙන් ගන්නවා credit එක. ඒතර country එක ඇතුළේ සල්ලි නෑ. Right? So practically how they are claiming tax credit එක ගන්න නම් they should have withholding tax certificate. Tax certificate issued by the tax authority of this country. A country के tax authority confirm කරලා ගන්න ඕනේ. But how much he has paid tax in say Sri Lanka na Sri Lanka tax department එකෙන් ගන්න. Commission job කියලා කරනවා. Who is issuing tax certificate confirming on this amount he has paid so much of tax in Sri Lanka. A certificate එකේ RS එක තමයි claim කරන්නේ. Right? That's how. So if you are involving with international remittances, Lanka alien remittance කියවනවාට අනේ අය සමහර අය ඉල්ලනවා give us tax certificate. ඒ certificate ඉල්ලන්නේ credit එක claim. Otherwise they cannot claim credit. The competent authority has to issue tax certificate. Whereas in domestic concept, our employees will tax certificate, bank issuing, rent එක tenant owner issue करना tenant issue करना owner right royalty करना pay करने के ना issue करना owner certificate है but in the international payment on that international transaction tax certificate is issued by competent authority tax authority के पास issue right so therefore if there is a rubber tax especially So they can claim tax credit. Or if that domestic law allows to give them the foreign tax credit, they can claim that tax credit. But certificate confirmation should be given by the tax authority. අපි ලංකාවෙන් කියනවා ලංකාවේ tax authority when you have certificate tax we hereby confirm that so much of tax has been properly paid in Sri Lanka. Certificate, right? So in the outload remitter, I have uploaded that reading material. In the outload remitter, it is there what we have discussed. And the withhold tax again, so that is we are making outside payment. So that certificate can be get. Right? Right. So you understand that. So because he has paid 8,000 in this country, he claiming 8,000 in this country where his maximum tax rate is this country more than that, less than the tax rate he is claiming. Maximum tax rate they can make country go at high. And we are claiming 8,000 tax rate. When you make this up, when you make a eliminate current, limit current, because අපි වෙනදී මෙයාගේ ඇත්තටම එන්න තීච්ච කාරණට වඩා tax rate එකක් දෙනවා. right? අපි මෙයාගේ tax කරවදී මේ income එක මේ country එකේ අපිට කරන්න පුළුවන් 7,000 tax එක. හැබැයි credit එක දෙනවා 8,000. ඒක නිසා we are giving another mechanism is there that is called ordinary credit method. Ordinary credit method. So most of agreement follow the ordinary credit method. Under the ordinary credit method, what you are telling me is, if you have paid tax to the country, yes, you can claim tax credit in the country where the president, your president, but maximum amount is say in this context limited to 7,000. Maximum amount take limit करना, may country के दिया tax certificate. एक country के कोच्चर के हुआ, may country के tax credit देने, may country के आगे tax exposure के इतना. That is called ordinary statement. Then we have different same thing. So under the ordinary credit method, so same example, ordinary credit method. It works on that ordinary method. Same example, right? So this country is receiving 8,000. Where the income is less than 100,000, tax rate is 30. More, plus or 100,000 or more than that, rate is 35%. So in the country, source country is tax rate is 20%. Now he is receiving 20,000 that country, so therefore tax is 4,000. So in this country, his total tax liability country R is receiving 80,000. Country S is receiving 20,000. Altogether 100,000. Tax at 35%. 35,000. Now, country S, he has only paid 4,000. Therefore, we are giving tax credit. We are giving 20,000 into. He can claim maximum credit up to 35%. But he has already paid 4,000 and 20%. Therefore, that 4,000 he can claim. Right? The maximum rate he can claim up to this level. This is the limitation. But actually he has paid this level. Right? Therefore he can claim 4,000. Total tax exposure is 35,000. 31 plus 4,000. Right? If no DTA, country R, he has to pay 100, he has to pay 39,000. No change. Now the tax benefit is 4,000, right? This is the maximum. You can write maximum credit level. Maximum tax rate limitation එක මෙන්න මේක. ඉතල නිකන් ඉතල යනවා. That is all you get with that. So source country के tax rate එක original country වල අඩු හන්දා full එක යනවා. full rate method එක දුන්නා වගේ තමයි. අයියා S country එක කියුවේ. යා මේ country එක කියුවේ අපි මේ country එකේ tax rate එක දෙනවා. tax rate එක. අපි දැන් යාගේ වෙනම කරන්නේ පළවෙනි ඉංග්‍රීසි කරේ ඔක පළවෙනි ඉංග්‍රීසි කිව්වේ අපි එක්සෙප්ෂන් මෙතඩ් එකකින් කරේ source country එකක් අපි කල්පනා කරේ. ඒක ටැක්ස් කරේ නැහැ resident country. ඒක දෙවෙනි ඒකේ කිව්වේ that is full exemption. exemption is provision එක tax rate එකක් difference එකක් තියෙනවා. අර income එක ගන්නවා tax rate එක difference කරනවා. provision. Credit method is the full rate method. अनिक country, source country के income में return country tax करना. source country के tax में नहीं country करता. तो 4,000 क्या है source country के दिया क्या हो गया? एक resident country के तरफ कर. फिर तो यार तो source tax लाभ नहीं कर तो क्या resident country के दिया क्या होने? तो 1,000 source country के दिया 4,000 क्यों? source country पर 1,000 common क्यों? Thank you, like 35,000, 100% tax. Again, 100,000. That's okay. 20,000 different tax. දැන් මේ non DT එකක් කියන්නේ අපි මේ එතන මේ benefit එක ගන්න මෙන්න මේක. මේ 20,000 මේ country එකේ දෙකේදී මේ tax කරලා කියලා අතර කරලා දාන්න. එක country එක නවත්තලා දාන්න. tax rate එක දුන්නා කියන්නේ දෙක country එක tax කරේ නැහැ වගේ අපිට. Right? මේ 20,000 එකේ difference එක මෙහෙද කියලා බලන්න මෙදී. හැමදාම මේ 20,000 එකේ difference එක තමයි. tax rate එක අද ඔව් එතන මේ දින maximum limit එක. යාට මෙච්චර නේද විතර කොච්චි කියව පුදුම කියන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි ගෙවලා තියෙන ගාන ඊට වඩා අඩු නම් ඒක full credit එක ගන්න පුළුවන්. resident country වල අඩු නම් full එක යනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ resident country එකේ tax rate එක දැනගන්න විතරයි යාට tax rate ගන්න පුළුවන් අර country එකේ කොච්චර කියලා. ඇයිලා example එකක් දෙකද? ඒවා මේක අක්කලිය කරන්න අපේ. So here the under the ordinary credit method is concept is so tax credit is limited to tax exposure in the resident country. Tax a country के exposure का limit कर रहा है. In this context, he can claim up to 7,000, but he has already paid 4,000. That's 2,000 again. Right? So therefore, that if no DTA available, that 39,000 is still there. Reason is that when we 20,000 tax department. Right. Data what is it? Then Maria, when I give out what there. Another part of that. Now that close country tax rate is 40%. I am making there. 40%. Right? So make a 40% no tax, 8,000. And then what I said. Now how much he can claim tax rate? Same thing, right? So now 80,000 he is receiving from country where he resident, and he is receiving 20,000 from another country, that is source country. Altogether 100,000. Anyway, tax rate is 35%, 35,000. He has already paid 8,000 in the source country because tax rate is 40%. 40% on 20,000, that's 8,000 he has already paid. How much he can claim right now tax as tax rate? 7,000. He cannot claim that 8,000. He can claim only 7,000. Now tax credit is limited to 7,000. Therefore, his tax liability is here this country 30. How much? 20. 20. This country is paying 8,000 total tax liability. $36,000. ඊට එක නැත්නම් 39,000 තමයි. ඔයාලා බලන්න බලන්න දැන්. මෙතන කලින් අපේ total tax liability ගාවට කොහොමද කරත්තාවේ 35,000. දැන් 1,000 වල වැඩි වුණා. වැඩි වුණේ ඇයි? මෙතන credit එක limit කරා 7,000 වල. නැත්නම් එයා total මෙයා කියලා දෙන 8,000 නේ කියුවා. මේ 1,000 තමයි වැඩි. Right? Because other source country tax rate is more than the higher than the resident country tax liability. बोले ये exposure क्या කොහොමද කියනවා? ඒතකොට අර 20,000 වලට 35,000 ගියන දින එක. එයා 40,000 ගෙවුවා. 40% ගෙවුවා. එතනින් 1000ක් වැඩිපුර ඒ කන්ට්‍රියට ගියා. ඒතකොට අර කන්ට්‍රියට වැඩිපුර 1000ක් යා ගෙවලා තියෙනවා. මේ කන්ට්‍රියේ tax liability එහෙමම ඒ ගානම තමයි තියෙන්නේ. Right? Yeah. So this method, the country, the cash flow, there won't be any cash flow impact to the country. නැත්තම් අපි මේක ලංකාවට ලංකාවේ treasury එකෙන් tax rate එක දෙනවා ලංකාවේ හම්බ වෙන්නේ නැති tax එක. ඒක ඉන්දියාවට ගෙවලා දෙනවා. බංග්ලාදේශ වල ගෙවලා. ඒ කන්ට්‍රියට ගෙවපුවා මෙහි credit එකද. මේකද අපි කරේ මේ country එකේ ගෙවන්න තියෙන tax එක අදාළව ගන්න. Simply what we have counterpart we did, he has paid 20,000 on that, 35%, 7,000 एक අපි අදාළ. We are not losing. Losing means there won't be any liquidity issues to the country. Right? So this is ordinary method. So that question answering that. Right? Maximum limitation. There's a maximum rate limitation. So most of agreement goes in. So I could say this method. So that is somewhat okay, right? Because because the tax revenue maker, just like a country like Sri Lanka, we are depending on tax revenue. අපි දැන් අද අපිට 1000 නැතුණා තව 1000ක් වැඩි වුණා ක්‍රෙඩිට් එකක් දෙනවා. ඒතකොට ඇත්තටම ගියේ මෙන්න මේ ටැක්ස් එකෙන් තමයි අර 1000ක් කලින් ගියේ. අපිට හම්බෙන්නේ තියෙන ටැක්ස් එකෙන් අපි 1000ක් අතහැරියා. දැන් තියෙන්නේ අපිට එයාගෙන් හම්බෙන්න තියෙන 7000යි අපි ඒ 7000 විතරක් අතහැරලා. කලින් අපිට එයාගෙන් 7000ක් හම්බෙන්න උනේ අපි 8000ක් ක්‍රෙඩිට් එකක් දෙනවා. ඒතර අපිට මෙහි ඉන්න ඉන්කම් එකනොත් අපි ගන්න ටැක්ස් ඉන්කම් එකනොත් ගන්න කියන ක්‍රෙඩිට් එකක් දෙන්න අතහැරලා. Right? Clear? Right. This question we did. Right. So that's the basically following the method. So exemption method and credit method. Under the exemption method, that income we have the source country income is not considering as the resident country. So, but full exemption method we are not considering even when they are determining the tax rate. If they are differential tax rate. But exemption is progression. So if there is a differential tax rate, we consider that income to determine the threshold, only for the threshold. But if there are no differential tax rate, anyway we are not considering, right? Full credit method, whatever tax paid at source country, we are giving tax rate. But ordinary method, tax is limited to the total tax exposure at the resident country. That particular taxpayer is liable at the resident country. Right? Follow now. DD එකක් කියවලවල So this one is this is the tax credit. So if you are making an outward remittance, this can to be followed, right? As for this one, says if you are making a payment outside Sri Lanka, so requirement of tax clearance should be obtained. Otherwise, we cannot make any payment outside Sri Lanka. There are some payments are not subject to withholding tax. So if they are in the negative list, not necessary to apply for the tax clearance because this has been given, this direction has been given to the bank and the authorized dealer who making foreign remittance. They are not authorized to send money without getting the tax clearance from the commissioner. That clearance is something, and but the withhold tax is certificate is something, right? It's two things. So they are giving tax clearance certificate. It says they have already paid tax in Sri Lanka, so therefore you can make the remittance. That direction is given to the bank and the dealer, not the taxpayer, not the person who making the remittance. Remittance is making that application, right? So thereafter, if somebody has paid tax, he can get a withholding certificate from the Commissioner General. Commissioner General issuing a certificate. Consider that amount what he has paid in Sri Lanka. This is the application to make that clearance, right? This is there in that. This is gazetted application. It is part of law. So we'll read that India Sri Lanka, China Sri Lanka DTA. And that we'll see how they are going to eliminate double taxation. Separate article is there for all the double taxation agreement. Elimination of double taxation. So method for elimination of double taxation. Sri Lanka, China. In Sri Lanka, double tax shall be eliminated as follows. Sri Lanka, that means we are transaction is in China. How to eliminate? Where a resident of Sri Lanka derives income from China. Resident of Sri Lanka derives income from China. The amount of tax on that income payable in China, in accordance with the provision of this agreement, may be credited against the Sri Lanka tax imposed on that resident. The amount of the credit, however, shall not exceed the amount of Sri Lanka tax on that income computed in accordance with the taxation law and regulation of Sri Lanka. That indirectly says what is that? Ordinary credit method. It's resident of Sri Lanka getting income from China, right? So we'll explain again. Where a resident of Sri Lanka? The diagram is there. Resident of Sri Lanka is resident. He is resident. Receiving income from China, right? Where a resident of Sri Lanka derives income from China. The amount of tax on that income payable in China. $100 income, lakh income. Yeah, many tax available is China. Remember that also says resident of Sri Lanka. Only resident can claim, right? According with the provision of this agreement, may be credited against Sri Lankan tax. May be credited against Sri Lankan tax. May be credited may income Lanka tax and that's some moment they are going to. That's it. May be credited. අපි දුම ලංකාවේ එයාට තොර එහෙනම් මේකද කියන විදිහට එයා ටැක්ස් කරන්නේ ලංකාවේ ටැක්ස් වෙන්නේ කොහොමද? රෙසිඩන්ස් ප්‍රින්සිපල් එක. සෝස් කන්ට්‍රි එකේ ඉන්කම් එක ලංකාවේ ටැක්ස් වෙනවා. නම් ඩොමෙස්ටික් ලෝ එකේ කියන්නේ ලංකාවේ ටැක්ස් රේට් එක 35%. 30% now company got 30%. Right? It says maybe created against Sri Lankan tax imposed on that president. Imposed on that president. The amount of the credit, however, shall not exceed the amount of the Sri Lankan tax on that income. So, I am going to go. Lanka tax 30,000. Amount of tax credit equal to the Sri Lankan tax exposure. Yeah, maximum when you can get 30,000 in a car. Where then you will 20,000 or 20,000. Make another one. The 40% in China trade rate, they have paid 40%. On the 100,000, he can claim but 30,000. Why? That income is taxed in Sri Lanka at 30. Yeah? So says ordinary agreement. Okay. China also says, Lanka China wherever resident of China derives income from Sri Lanka, the amount of tax on that income payable in Sri Lanka in accordance with the provision of this agreement may be credited against the Chinese tax imposed on that resident. The amount of the credit, however, shall not exceed the amount of the Chinese tax that income computed in accordance with the taxation law and regulation of China. The income of the day the better. I make a comment. Everyone take. Clear? Point one. Elimination number taxation. Where a resident of Singapore derived from Sri Lanka, which according to the provision of this agreement may be taxed in Sri Lanka. Singapore shall, subject to its laws regarding the allowance as a credit against Singapore tax of the tax payable in any country other than Singapore, allow the Sri Lanka tax paid, whether directly or by deduction as a credit against the Singapore tax payable on the income of that resident. Where such income is a dividend paid by a company which is a resident of Sri Lanka to a resident of Singapore, which is a company owing directly or indirectly not less than 10% of the share capital of the first mentioned company, the credit shall take into account Sri Lankan tax paid by the company on the portion of its profit out of which the dividend is paid. Right? ඒක කියන්නේ එක. ඒ කියන්නේ dividend income එකක් ආව නම් ඒ profit එක tax එකේ දෙන්න පුළුවන් dividend එකට ගෙවලා තියෙන tax එක විතරයි. Right? Because it says not less than 10% of the share capital. The credit shall take account in Sri Lanka tax paid by the company on the portion of its profit out of which the dividend is paid. Right? Sri Lanka taxation. Lanka taxation. We are a resident of Sri Lanka. It's very important. We are Lanka. We are resident of Sri Lanka derives income from Singapore, which in accordance with the provision of this agreement may be taxed in Singapore. Sri Lanka shall allow a deduction from the tax on the income of that resident an amount equal to tax paid in Singapore. Such deduction shall not, however, exceed the portion of the tax as computed before the deduction is given, which is attributable to the income which may be taxed in Singapore. Right? මේකද කියන්නේ ලංකාවෙත් කියන්නේ same provision. China agreement provision නෙමෙයි. Because in the Singapore tax law එක little different. Singapore අපිට තියෙනවා අපේ dividend income එක ලංකාවේ tax කරනවා නේ සමාන tax වෙන්නේ නැහැ. But in Singapore it is liable for tax. But there is a concept called headline tax rate in Singapore. The Singapore tax law එකේ තියෙනවා. Headline tax rate එක ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ dividend එක එහි taxation rate එකට වැඩි නම් ඒගොල්ලෝ ඒ exemption එක දෙනවා. Reason එක තමයි headline tax rate එක කියන්නේ ඒ source එක ලංකාවේ tax වෙන high වැඩිම tax rate එක. Because you know that dividend pay කරනකොට that means dividend ගෙවන්නේ profit tax ගෙවලා දෙන profit එක. ඒ නිසා ඒ income ඒගොල්ලෝ එක කටියේ tax කරන්නේ. ඒක සිංගප්පූරු set කරන්නේ ඒගොල්ලන්. Right? That's what we say. අර කලින් කියන්නේ ඒක. කලින් කියන්නේ ඒක. So headline tax rate එක ලංකාවට එන concept එකක් නෑ. ලංකාවේ කියන්නේ මොකද? සිංගප්පූරුවේ ඔයා tax එකක් ගෙවලා තියෙනවා නම් ඔයාලා මේ rate එක ගන්න පුළුවන්. කොයි ගානටද? ලංකාවේ income එක tax වෙනවා. Right? Where in accordance with the any provision of this agreement, income derived by resident of Sri Lanka is exempt from tax in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka may nevertheless, in calculating the amount of tax on the remaining income of such resident, take into account the exempt income. ඒ කියන්නේ අර ලංකාවේ income එක consider කරනකොට threshold එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒකෙන් මේක ගන්න කියලා එකයි. එයා ඒ දෙකම use කරනවා. ordinary method එකක් දෙනවා, exemption එක දෙනවා with progression. ලංකාවේ සිංගප්පූරුවේ income එක ලංකාවේ tax rate නෑ. හැබැයි ලංකාවේ different tax rate තියෙනවා නම් ඒ taxable income එක ගන්නකොට සිංගප්පූරු income එක consider කරන්න. Right? අර progression එකේදී අපි කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? 100,000 නම් tax rate එක 35%. Less than 100,000 නම් 30%. මේකද කියන්නේ සිංගප්පූරුවේ income එක ලංකාවේ tax උන් නැතත් rate එක decide කරනකොට ඒක consider කරනවා. ඒව rate එකක් තියෙනවා. Right? But currently we don't have. කලින් අපිට ඔහොම තිබුණා. එකයි ඒක දාන්න. Right. So with that DTA finished. Non-resident tax liability is finished. Completed. Right? So we'll look into some questions. And abhi question mana balane. And especially that group assignment is based on non-resident tax liability. එක scenario develop කරලා දෙනවා වෙන වෙන. මේ එකක් આવුත් කොහොමද මේ එකක් આવුත් කොහොමද මේ එකක් આવුත් කොහොමද ඒක තමයි group එක. එකින් එක වෙනස්. Group කීයක් තියෙනවද? How many groups altogether? 10. So it's 10 assignments are given. Different assignments. එකම assignment එක මේ ඔක්කොම දෙනවා. Right? So then you have to do that one. So I will upload this week, coming week. That all the you share with me that what is format එක මම දැන් දාන්න ඒක දාන්න. So no must name එකයි this registration number එකයි මොන group එකයි කියනවා. Right? If you are sharing with me today, this week I can upload the assignment. But again, the assignment එක තියෙන්නේ දැන් we have 46 DTA. ඒකකින් තමයි තියෙන්නේ මොකක් හරි එකක් දෙනවා. DTA එක ඕවා බලන්න. Right? So we did 3 DTA discuss කරා. different DTA එකයි මම discuss කරේ. දැන් අරක කියවලා බලලා තමයි answer කරන්නේ. It could be say Sri Lanka, UK, Sri Lanka, Japan, Sri Lanka, Korea, DTA. ඒක ඔයාලා බලලා ඉන්න තමයි කරන්න ඕනේ. Right? Right. We'll have a break. We have discussed that calculation එකයි අපි මාත් එක දෙකක් කරන්නේ. Two questions, right? And taxable income and something. Two question meeting, right? අනේ කාරණේ ආවේ එකක් කොන්නේ නැහැ
What are the diagram? Diagram? That put up. Hello. Hello. Then
Your exam schedule date? Oh. Excuse me. Can you give me your email address? Email address. Now I think. And we'll start. So we'll have some question. In the next day also we'll do some question regarding the computation of income tax. With this one, right? So this is actually question bank 4, question bank 2 and 3 I will upload. Evaluate the possibility of creation of permanent establishment, right? Whether permanent establishment is figuring or not, and explain the tax liability that contains, right? Read. Question number 1. Westhoff Private Limited is incorporated in Malaysia and engaged in manufacturing furniture for corporate clients. Golden Villa Private Limited is incorporated in Sri Lanka and engaged in the business of hospitality service. Company has imported furniture during the year 24-25 from Westhoff Private Limited. Total cost to Westhoff Private Limited was rupees 150 million. The Malaysian company, Westhoff, what they are doing? They are manufacturing furniture, right? Basically used by corporate clients. So piece furniture, office and that type of thing, right? So Golden Villa Private Limited is a company incorporated in Sri Lanka. They are in hospitality services, just like say tourism industry. They import some furniture from Westhoff, that Malaysian company. Total cost to Westhoff Private Limited was 150 million. So the question is whether there is a permanent establishment or not. Now tell me. Right? So incorporated in Malaysia. Now we have imported, Golden Villa has imported some furniture from them. So asking two questions. Evaluate the possibility of creation of permanent establishment and tax liability. permanent establishment or not? Permanent establishment create another. What do you think? Alian answer. 2 minutes. Now your timing counts. Time again हम उन्हें क्वेश्चन के लिए बात करते हैं. The power establishment or not? Power establishment or not? So, මේ වගේ question එක approach එක මොකද? So, යාගේ liability එක determine කරන්න තියෙනවා. So, liability determine කරන්න කොහොමද අපි? The Malaysian company is incorporated in Malaysia. The best of is incorporated in Malaysia. That means it is not incorporated in Sri Lanka. The company. right? Therefore, rest of private limited is a non-resident person for Sri Lanka tax. Vegan is a resident non-resident. He is a non-resident person for Sri Lanka tax. Correct? So golden villa, Mohammed Lanka Incorporated, they are resident. අපේ ආගමික ප්‍රතිපත්තියක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. යාගම ලංකාවට ඇතුළත් irrespective whether it's what the source is here, wherever the source. The G is chargeable for Sri Lanka. So it's make a question answer should be targeting the non-resident person. Right. Malaysia is a non-resident person. Malaysia company. The best of is the non-resident person for Sri Lanka tax. So after they have tax after government tax for the non-resident person should have a source in Sri Lanka. Income should be derived from a source in Sri Lanka. But they did. They manufacture their furniture, send to Sri Lanka. So section 72 or 73 carries source in Sri Lanka in import. We learned, right? Employment exercise in Sri Lanka. The resident person make a payment in say from Sri Lanka, then the source is up here. Whether there is a source in Sri Lanka? No. They don't have a source in Sri Lanka. Section 73 only covering source in Resident person make the payment, but for the tangible goods, not for the service payment. Therefore, there is no source in Sri Lanka. So what the Malaysian company is doing? Manufacturing and selling of furniture. That is their business. So we to tax them. Their business should be carried through a permanent establishment in Sri Lanka. If they are carrying out the business, their business. What is their business? Manufacturing and selling of furniture. If they are doing their business in Sri Lanka through a permanent establishment, then we also having a taxing right. That income should be taxed in Sri Lanka. We need to check DTA with Sri Lanka and Malaysia. You can find another again. We have to check that. Right? Another thing is permanent establishment definition. Permanent establishment, there should be a fixed business location in Sri Lanka of a non-resident person. Is there a fixed business location in Sri Lanka? Non-resident person? No. Therefore, we cannot tax in Sri Lanka. From that profit, what they generated from selling of furniture to Sri Lanka. Right? So, first determine the residential status of the entity. Definitely, because it's non-resident, you have to recognize clearly non-resident. And thereafter, we have to check whether there is a source in Sri Lanka. As per the Inland Revenue Law, if you are a non-resident person has a source in Sri Lanka, TDA he is chargeable for Sri Lanka tax. TDA double tax ordinance. Only that. Section 2 එක බලවෙනවා. Section 2 එකේ කියන්නේ ඒක. Section 2 එකේ income is ලංකාවේ දිනන taxable income non-resident person නැද්ද ආදාර නැහැ. Right? So then DTA එකක් තිබුණොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ? Taxing right එකේ හෙට වෙන යන්න පුළුවන්. Source country එකට එන්න පුළුවන්, resident country එකට විතරක් යන්න පුළුවන්. Where when people then after where tax කරන්න 10යි අපි tax කරනවා ඒතරොටි. That should be there. But because now they don't have a source in Sri Lanka, but they are doing business. They don't have a fixed business location in Sri Lanka. Therefore, best of is not liable for Sri Lanka. There is no fixed business location in Sri Lanka. Fixed business location, permanent establishment definition. There should be a fixed business location. Sri Lanka, where that enterprise do business through that location. Malaysia, Sri Lanka, DTA, Article 7 follow. We have to tax them. Right? There? I'm a question. My project is resident and non-resident. Right? Resident and non-resident. Resident know the local income right? Non-resident know the we have to check whether there is a source in Sri Lanka. Source in Sri Lanka is not low in tax. DTA මොන income category එකද ඒක වෙන්නේ? The business income. So if the business income, if it is their business income, then we have to check whether there is a permanent establishment in Sri Lanka for non-resident person. Income category interest, royalty මොනවද කියලා නැස්සෙනවා. පරාදමක් කරලා. ada house thing lagi nama kita ini mana time template next day right finish nah ada next right so next day royalty so salary ampun salary ampun salary okay so therefore and another thing is we are not mentioning that what the income in the category because this income category hint එකක් තියෙන්නේ. They manufacture and selling furniture. So that is their business. So we do the tax their business income. There should be a fixed business location in Sri Lanka. Right? So we do, there is no fixed business location in Sri Lanka. Second thing, another one. Godinla Private Limited is incorporated in Sri Lanka. And engage in the business of hospital services. Company has obtained consultant service from Kagro Interior Solution Pty Limited, a company incorporated in Australia. The service is rendered by the interior design team who hold the office Melbourne. And they have made their service through special digital platform. During the year 24-25, 25 million has been paid as consultancy fee. That's what they say. So දැන් අපි manufacturing කරන්නේ අර ඔය එකම question එකේ කැලි දෙකක් තමයි ඇත්තම කියනවා නම් මම question දෙකක් විදිහට දාලා තියෙනවා right what was happen මේ ලංකාවේ ඇත්තම කේස් එකක් තමයි දාලා තියෙන කැලි දෙක ලංකාවේ අලුතෙන් හදපු හොටෙල් එකකට මැලේසියා වල තමයි හොඳ ෆර්නිචර් හදන්නේ මැලේසියා කම්පැනි එකේ ෆර්නිචර් ලංකාවට ගෙනවා ලංකාව වික් කරා ඒකේ හොටෙල් එකේ ඉන්ටීරියර් ඩිසයින් කරේ වෙන කන්ට්‍රියක් ඕස්ට්‍රේලියා නෙමෙයි කරේ වෙන කන්ට්‍රි එකක් ඒගොල්ලන්ට කියලා ඉන්ටීරියර් ඩිසයින් එක අරගෙන ඒ ඩිසයින් එක අර ගොඩක් දීලා මැනුෆැක්චර් කරලා ලංකාවට ෆර්නිචර් ගෙනාවා. ඒ ඉන්ටීරියර් ඩිසයින් ටීම් එකෙන් තමයි කිව්වේ මේවා තමයි හදන්න. ලංකාවේ හදපු টপ ක්ලාස් අලුත් හොටෙල් එක. හරි. So එතකොට ඉන්ටීරියර් ඩිසයිනින් සර්විස් එක ගත්ත ඕස්ට්‍රේලියාවේ කම්පැනි එකක්. මේකේ තියෙන විදිහට. දැන් බලන්න. දැන් කියන්නේ. දැන් ඩෙස්ක්ටොප් එක ගත්තාම දැන් වෙන එකක්. මෙයා ගන්නවා වෙන සර්විස් එකක්. Kangaroo country. Right? That case we are not import anything. We are getting service, but there that service thing is not coming to Sri Lanka. It's made to internet online. එහෙම දේවල් වෙනවනේ. දේවල් ගන්න පුළුවන්. ලංකාවට නෑ මේ ඉඳගෙන තමයි කොහොමද දේවල් කරන්නේ. මෙහෙන් යවුවා ඩිපාර්ට්මන්ට් එක. එහෙන් හදලා දුන්නා. Right? Thank you. Same approach. That Kagro company is an non-resident person for Sri Lanka tax. Clear. Do they have a source in Sri Lanka? Source in Sri Lanka තියෙනවා. ලංකාවේ source එකක් තමයි නේද? income source එකක් තියෙනවා ලංකාවේ. ඒවට income source එක. එහෙනම් ලංකාවේ ඒගොල්ලන් ඉන්කම් එක ගෙනත් වෙනවද? හා? Source in Sri Lanka means what is? Sri Lankan income. Yeah. අපි approach එක කරනනේ domestic law එකෙන් ඉස්සලා කොහොමද? මම එකක් කියලා දැන් BTA කියන්නේ resident non-resident එක අතරද කියන්නේ. ඊගාට determination of resident non-resident එකේ තියාගෙන ඉස්සලාම ගන්න domestic law එකේ දෙන දේ resident non-resident පිට ගන්න. ඒක non-resident non-resident. හැබැයි එහෙම හොයන්න බැරි වෙලාවක තමයි එයා කියන්නේ. ඔයාලා මේ එකක් තියනවාද, ගියක් තියනවාද, individual stuff. ඒ වගේ කියන්නේ. effective management එක කොහෙද ඒක බලන්න කියලා කියන්නේ ඒක හොයන්න බැරි නම් domestic law එක. Domestic law එක clearly කියනවා නම් resident non-resident කියලා you have to follow with that. That law. So that's why England law එකේ තියෙන විදිහට that Australian company is a non-resident company. It is incorporated in Australia, not incorporated in Sri Lanka. Because company එකක් resident වෙන්නේ කොහොමද ලංකාවේ? It should be incorporated in Sri Lanka as per Sri Lanka law. දැන් මේ Australian company ලංකාවේ incorporate කරලා නැහැ. It incorporated in Australia. Therefore, it means that Australian company is a non-resident person for Sri Lanka tax. Now, first thing, okay. Second thing is non-resident person අපි tax කරනවා ලංකාවේ law එක විදිහට he should have a income that should be he should have an income that should be generated from a source in Sri Lanka. The source in Sri Lanka කියන්නේ කායි කියන්නේ England law එක. Act එකේ කියනවා source in Sri Lanka means what is මේ section 7 වල කියන එයාට මේ employment එක exercise කරනවා නම් employment income එකේ individuals වලට exercise කරන දැන වැදගත් වෙන්නේ payment එක දැන වැදගත්. Right? If can connect to the service fee payment, if the resident person make that service fee payment, yes, that's the source in Sri Lanka. Payment එක විතරයි ආකුවේ. Resident person කෙනෙක් service fee එක pay කරනවා නම් that's the source in Sri Lanka. Now, the payment is made by Golden Villa Private Limited. Yeah, Golden Villa Private Limited. It's a resident person or not? Resident person make a service fee payment to non-resident person. And that's the source in Sri Lanka. Then we have category. So what is the category? So that Australian companies doing consultancy, interior design company, that is their business. That is their business. So business එක කරන්න නම් business income එක ගන්න. යා business income. අපි නම් source එකක් තියෙනවා ලංකාවේ. හැබැයි we to tax them. They should have a permanent establishment in Sri Lanka. ඒගොල්ලෝ service fee එක අන්න service එක දෙනවා. එතකොට එක්ක ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ team එක ලංකාවට ආවොත් number of days බලලා agreement එක බලන්න ඕනේ. Article 5 of Sri Lanka Australia agreement එක බලන්න ඕනේ. බලන්න සාංශ ගන්න බෑ මේ. බලන්න. Correct right? Yeah, business income. Agreement එක බලලා create කරන permanent establishment එක. So yes, we can tax them. Otherwise because it is their business income. Business එක විදියට. හැබැයි සමහර තැන්වලදී especially we talks about in say Indian Sri Lanka India DTA service fee service royalty එක ඇතුළට technical service fee එකක් යනවා. අන්න ඒතකොට structure එක වෙනස්. business එක වුණා අතනින් කාගෙන නම් ලංකාවේ technical idea තියෙනවා. එදා එකක් කොටන බලන්න. අනිත් ආටිකල් එකකට යනවා කියනවා. The article 7 it talks about the business income. Even business income එකේ තියෙන category එකක් වුණා. සමහර ආටිකල් වලදී වෙන ආටිකල් එකකින් ආවෙයි. ඒකට කියන දැන් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ any management or interior design it can be considered as a royalty. Royalty එකක් ලංකාවේ කියනවා. ලංකාවේ තියෙන ගානේ royalty එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒ ආටිකල් එක තමයි apply. ඒකට කියන ඉන්දියා DTA එකෙන් කියන tax කරන්න පුළුවන් ලංකාවට. rate එක දාන්න. Right? Clear? එදා එකත් එකක් බලනවා. අනිත් එකත් එකක් බලනවා. Right. To answer this question. So Australian company is an non-resident person. They are rendering services to Sri Lanka, and Sri Lanka Golden Villa is a resident company, resident person for Sri Lanka tax. Resident person make a service fee payment to non-resident person. There is a source in Sri Lanka, so we also having taxing, right? But the cargo is a company which is doing business on rendering of this type of services. They don't have a common district in Sri Lanka. Therefore, we don't have taxing tax. එතකොට අපි විතෝන් එක අඩු ගන්න පුළුවන්ද? විතෝන් එක අඩු ගන්න බෑ. හැබැයි අර මං කලින් කිව්වා වගේ රොයල්ටි කරනවා නම් yes. අන්න එතකොට තමයි වෙන්නේ විතෝන් එක අඩු කරනවා 10. Same question if you put it in this way, say if the company is incorporated in India, they are giving design interior services. It is their business, but as for the Sri Lanka India DTA, we are making a technical service fee or the royalties to that particular party. Therefore, it is falling under the note article. This one, 12 again up there, tax කරන්න පුළුවන්. Sri Lanka can deduct tax at the time of remittance. 10%. It is limited to 10%. Right? R&D Construction Private Limited. It is a company incorporated in Sri Lanka and engaged in the business of construction contract. During the 24-25, company has obtained employees from Indo Manpower Private Limited. A company incorporated in India. During the year 24-25, the employees are engaged at a construction project in Sri Lanka. Total bill amount for the manpower was rupees 125 million, and R&D company has paid the same. So R&D is a construction company. They obtain manpower from Indian company. So their employees come to Sri Lanka and working at that site. Right? එතකොට තමයි දෙන්නෙක් ඉන්නවා. ඔක්කොම කට්ටිය තුන් දෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. R&D කියන්නේ resident company, Indo Manpower කියන්නේ non-resident company, and their employees also come to Sri Lanka. තුන් දෙනෙක්. non-resident party දෙකක් ඉන්නවා එතන එක්කෙනෙක් ඇතුලේ අනිත් එක්ක නැහැ. So we are making the payment to Indo, the Indian company. Service fee payment to Indo. So that company. ඒගොල්ලෝ ඒගොල්ලෝගේ employees are salary ගෙවනවා නේ. අපි ගෙවන්නේ employees salary. But employment is exercised in Sri Lanka. Employment is exercised in Sri Lanka. So non-resident company as well as non-resident employees, individuals are දෙන්නෙක් ඉන්නවා. ඒ දෙන්නාගෙන් බලන්න the employment එක ලංකාව exercise කරනවා නම් irrespective of where the payment is coming. They are having a source in Sri Lanka. Source in Sri Lanka. The employees of Lanka are actually පුළුවන්. Right? So that company එකට pay කරන service fee එකක්. R&D is making a service fee payment to non-resident person. Non-resident person. So බලන්න අපි එතනින් එහා tax වෙනවා. Their activity is hiring employees. This one. Because they have a permanent establishment in Sri Lanka. ඒ සර්විස් එකෙන් බලන්න එයා කොච්චර කාල ලංකාවේ ඉන්නවද කියලා. මේ ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එක කොච්චර කාලද ඉන්නවද කියලා. එයා කියන්නේ මේ අවුරුද්ද ඇතුළත හිටියා කියලා. There will be a බලන්න එයාගේ permanent තමයි ලංකාවේ ඉන්නවද නැද්ද කියලා. Right? And employees line වල මම එනවා. Right? Employees class ලංකාවේ employment exercise කරන source එකක් තියෙනවා. හැබැයි බලන්න ඕනේ dependent person විදියට. Dependent person. ඒකද කියන්නේ කොහොමද? What is? How is they say? If that employment is exercised in Sri Lanka, irrespective of whether the payment is making from Sri Lanka or elsewhere, they are chargeable for Sri Lanka tax. හැබැයි එතන තව exception එකක් තිබුණා. Pre-condition එකක් එක්ක. අන්න එකක් බලන්න. employment එක ලංකාවේ exercise කරාට හිටපු කාලේ under influence වල ආතුණා. ඒ expenditure එක ලංකාවේ permanent establishment එකෙන් බෙදා කරේ නැත්තම් ඒ expenditure එක employee ලංකාවේ නෙමෙයි නම් ගෙවන employee ලංකාවේ නෙමෙයි නම් employment income එක tax එන්නේ ඉන්දියාවේ විතර. Right? right? ඒ කැලි දෙකම තියෙනවා. පළවෙනි එක service fee payment to Indian person. Second thing is employment exercise in Sri Lanka. Clear? මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ පොඩි වුණාට ආන්සර් එක කරගන්න. So recognition of that one එක. Simplify කරනවා කලින් කිව්වා වගේ. කවුද නම් president? එයාට ලංකාවෙන් කම්මක් තියෙනවා. තියෙනවා නම් තාම ප්‍රශ්න දෙයක් නැත්තම් නෑ. එයා නම් president නම් ලංකාවෙන් කම්මක් නැත්තම් යන ප්‍රශ්න නෑ. නම් president ලංකාවෙන් කම්මක් තියෙනවා. There is a source. Income is generated from a source in Sri Lanka. Thereafter we have to check. DDA taxing rate එක කාලා තියෙනවා. ඒක බලන්න අපි අර category of income එකත් එක්ක අරගෙන වැඩි දැන් මේක වෙන්නේ එකක් employment income. So we have paid 125 millions to who is that? That company. We didn't pay any single cents to employees. But if the employment is excised in Sri Lanka, they are chargeable for Sri Lanka tax. Non-resident employee, they are exercising employment in Sri Lanka. Right? Irrespective of that, I say payment may be comes from India. That's one thing. Indo companies in India, ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ each company එකකින් ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ ඉදින් bank account වලට ගෙවන්න පුළුවන්. But as for the law, if the employment is exercised in Sri Lanka, irrespective of whether they pay the payment, it shall be considered as a source in Sri Lanka. They are chargeable with that. ඊට පස්සේ ගන්න ඕනේ DTA එකේ dependent person clause එක. අනේ 50. එතනදී බලන්න ඕනේ මොනවාද ලංකාවේ කොච්චර කාලෙ හිටියද? permanent establishment එකෙන් දෙක ගෙව්වේ. employer ශ්‍රී ලංකා president එකෙන්. එහෙම මොනවද තින් හැර ආයෙ taxing rate එක ගන්න. ඒක තමයි අපි කලින් කිව්වේ. පළවෙනි ඉංග්‍රීසි කියන්නේ තමයි. employees cut, right? Employee ලංකාවට ඇවිල්ලා එක දවසක් හිටියත් ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. employment එක ලංකාවේ එක්සයිස් කරා නම් මේ දවසට එයා ලංකාවට tax charge කරනවා. The employment is exercised in Sri Lanka. මාස දෙකක් හිටියත් එච්චරයි. මාස දෙකක් හිටියා. 2 months ලංකාවේ. ඒ 2 months වල ලංකාවට එයා charge කරනවා. tax එක. right? හැබැයි අරකේද කියන්නේ මාස දෙකයි ලංකාවේ හිටියේ. ඒ කියන්නේ දවස් 183 පාඩුයි. ලංකාවේ employer මෙයාගේ employee ලංකාවේ resident කෙනෙක් වෙන්න බෑ. right? ලංකාවේ resident කෙනෙක් නෙවෙයිනේ කිව්වේ. and permanent establishment එක ගන්න employee ලංකාව. එහෙම වුණොත් මේ මාස දෙකේ එක අපිට tax වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ආයි යාගේ කන්ට් එකට tax. right? clear? right. Mr. Narayan is a chartered engineer. Who is a resident of India? I Narayan is a resident of India. He is providing structural engineering services. Yeah, service provider. To DM construction by a company in Sri Lanka. Mr. Narayan has visited Sri Lanka several times. And he stay 120 days in Sri Lanka. During the year 2024-25, total service bill amount was rupees 25 million and DM company has paid the same. Further, Mr. Narayan has spent rupees 5 million as accommodation, office rent and travelling cost for the year. Consultancy agreement was for the above period and he is never visited Sri Lanka after the above contract. Mr. Narayan is a resident of India. ලංකාවේ ඉඳලා තියෙන දවස් 120යි. කොහොමද යා රෙසිඩන්ට් වෙන්නේ නැහැ ලංකාව. non resident. So he is providing engineering consultancy services to Sri Lanka. Right? So he is an independent personal service provider. Right? එතකොට බලන්න ඕනේ. මොකද්ද වැටෙන්නේ? යාර බිස් ස්පේස් එක ලංකාවේ තියෙනවා කියලා බලන්න. එහෙම නැත්තම් කියනවා බිස් ස්පේස් එකක් කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? එයාගේ ඔෆිස් එක ලංකාවේ තියෙනවා නම් අපිට එයා මේ ලංකාවේ ඉන්න කාලේ වැඩක් නැහැ. ඔෆිස් එක ලංකාවේ තියෙනවා. එහෙම නැත්තම් කියන්නේ දැන් ෆික්ස් බේස්. එහෙම නැත්තම් කියන්නේ ලංකාවේ එහෙම එයාට ප්ලේස් එකක් නැහැ, ස්පෙෂල් ප්ලේස් එකක් නැහැ. ඒක නට රෙගුලර්ලි අවైలබල්. ෆික්ස් බිස්නස් ප්ලේස් රෙගුලර්ලි අවైలබල්. කියලා කියන්නේ. යාට තියෙනවා මේක. printer එකක් තියෙනවා. එයා ඉන්නේ මාසයක් ලංකාවට. හැබැයි තියෙනවා location එකක්. එහෙම වුණාම ලංකාවට taxing right එක එනවා. එහෙම නැතුව එයා ඇවිල්ලා කන්සල්ටන්ට් සර්විස් කරා යනවා. ඇවිල්ලා කන්සල්ටන්ට් සර්විස් කරලා යනවා. එහෙම 100 ඉන්ක්‍රීස් වල වැඩි වුණාට ආයෙ යනවා ලංකාවට tax. business එකක් තියෙන ඕනේ location එක තියෙන ඕනේ නැහැ. location නැහැ. 100 ඉන්ක්‍රීස් හරි dates තියෙන ගන්න. agreement එකේ තියෙන ගන්න. agreement එක වෙන එකක් තියෙන්නේ. ඒක බලන්න ඕනේ. right? so India Sri Lanka agreement එක බලන්න ඕනේ. ඒක බලලා තමයි අපිට එයාගේ income එක tax කරන්න දෙන්න කියලා. in addition because it is India Sri Lanka duty. අර service fee කියන category එකට කොහොමද? fee under article 12. article 12 එක කියන්නේ royalty and technical service fee. technical service fee කියන කොට වන්නේ. ඒ වුණා අපි කොහොමද එයාට fixed business location එකක් තියෙන විදිහට කියවොත් තියෙන්නේ. එයාගේ business profit එක work out කරලා අපි tax කරන්න ඕන. එහෙම නැතුනොත් remittance එකේදී යාවට tax කරනවා. India Sri Lanka එකේදී දෙකෙන් කෝගෙන් හරි tax කරනවා. right? Mr. Chaturanga, President of Sri Lanka, employed by SP Logistics Private Limited, a company incorporated Sri Lanka. Mr. Chaturanga was assigned duty as the supply chain manager of XLT. He was seconded to ST Molecules Limited, a company incorporated Molecules, and he accepted the job on 1st April 2024. He was at Molecules office during the year 24-25, and salary were paid by Molecules company as per the employment contract. Total gross remuneration was rupees 12 million for the year 24-25. During the year, he has visited his family and spent 30 days in Sri Lanka. ඒක සාමාන්‍ය වෙන්න දෙයක්. ලංකාවේ මේකේ අපි ඔක්කොම දෙන්නා ලංකාවේ ජොබ් කරන රටේ අන්නේ වගේ එකක් වෙන්නේ. ලංකාවේ ජොබ් එකක් කරන රටේ ගිහලා ඉන්නේ. දැන් ලංකාවට කරලා නැහැ. ඩිග්‍රී වුණාට පස්සේ යනවා ඕස්ට්‍රේලියා. අන්න ලංකාවට කරනවා. ඒකෝඩෙන් මට කතා කරනවා. මම රට දාලා යනවා මම ඒකෝඩ ටැක්ස් කරනවා කියලා ආවම ඒ වගේ එකක්. දැන් කියන්න බෑ. Sri Lanka model we don't have DD එකක්. තාම නැහැ මේක ඉවර. DD is at negotiable එක. තාම conclude වෙලා gather කරලා නැහැ. නැත්නම් we don't have DDA with Sri Lanka and model there. හරි? දැන් මේකේ කවුද බලන්න කාගේ ටැක්ස් ලැබෙන්නේ කියලා බලන්න ඕනේ. Molecules company එක. ඒක ටැක්ස් ලැබෙන්නේ ගානද බලන්න ඕනේ. නෑ, යාට අපි ලංකාවේ ඉන්කම් එකක් නෑ. එයා ඒ බිස්නස් කරනවා. චතුරාංග මිස්ටර් චතුරාංගගේ ටැක්ස් දෙනවද නැද්ද කියලා තමයි ඉන්ඩිරෙක්ට්ලි අහන්නේ. ටැක්ස් දෙනවද නැද්ද? ටැක්ස් දෙන්න. යා. අරගෙන නැද්ද නැහැ. කලින් එක නැද්ද? හරි යාළුවෝ හරි ෆැමිලි එකේ කවුරු හරි නැද්ද කියලා නැද ගියා. ඔය Tax why? Yeah, that's how that's like yeah. Yeah, I down. Contractual වචන දැම්මම employment එක agreement එක යන්නේ ඒකට කාත් එකද? Only thing. When kakak. අවදීන අපිය. තුනක් වෙනකම් නෑ නෑ ඒ අවුරුද්ද යන්නේ අප්‍රේල් පළවෙනිද ලංකාවෙන් යන්නේ. අපි යන්නේ 24 25 tax liability එක. ඒක අප්‍රේල් පළවෙනිද ගිය සැනින් මෙයා නන්ද දෙන්න වෙන්නේ නෑ. 103 days යනකම් යා resident. ලංකාවේ resident. 103 days වලට වැඩි වුණොත් යා පැත්තට ගියොත් තමයි අන්න change of residence පටන් ගන්න. ඒතකොට තමයි section 70 apply. Right? Change of residence. එතකොට යා ලංකාවේ residence එක නැති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. හරි. නැති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. එහෙම නැත්නම් දැන් අර කවුද දැන් අපි ඉන්නවා මිඩල් ඊස්ට් වල ඉන්නවා. කොරියාව වල කට්ටිය කියලා ඉන්නවා. ඒගොල්ලෝ ලංකාවේ නේ ඉතින් ඒගොල්ලෝ නේනේ. උනාට අතනින් තමයි ඇප්ලයි කරගන්නේ. නැත්නම් එයා ලංකාවේ වැඩක් කරනවා. එයා අම්බ කරක් කියනවා. right? ලංකාවේ ටැක්ස් ලෝ එක මම කියන්නේ. පොරාර දැන් බලද්දී අපි දැන් අපි මෙහි හම්බ කරන ගන්නට වැඩි ඉහි සාමාන්‍ය කෙනෙක් හම්බ කරන ගන්න. නේ මැෂින් ඔපරේටර් කෙනෙක් ගියොත් දැන් ඔන්න හවුස් වයිෆ් කෙනෙක් ගියත් අපිට හම්බ කරනවා right? ලක්ෂයට වඩා ඕන ටැක්ස් එනවා. ලක්ෂයට වඩා එනවා. දැන් change of residence එක apply කරන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි තව එකක් තියෙනවා. දැන් ඔක්කොම මේකේ දැන් DD එක apply වෙන්නේ නැහැ. දැන් resident එක්කෙනෙක්ගේ tax liability change එක ගැන තමයි අදහස්. residence person කෙනෙක්ගේ tax liability තමයි යන්නේ. එතනින් තමයි යන්නේ. යා ඕනේ නම් resident වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඊට පස්සේ යා ලංකාවේ සෝස්ටර් තියන තාට tax එක නැත්නම් එතකන් යා නම් resident. right? So ලංකාවේ සෝස්ටර් යන employment excise කරන්නේ ලංකාවේ එළියේ. So it's a what is? So outside Sri Lanka. සෝෂල් ඉනරඩියනේ ලංකාවේ එළියේ. right? යාර ඉන්කම් එක ජෙනරේට් ලංකාවේ එළියේ. but if it's resident වලද මොකද වෙන්නේ? where has the source arises. so ඒතර පළවෙනි මෙයා ඒ අවුරුද්දේදී පාර්ට් එකක් යා රෙසිඩන්ට් වෙන්න පුළුවන් පාර්ට් එකක් නන් රෙසිඩන්ට් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. රෙසිඩන්ට් වෙච්ච කාලේදී සෝස් එක එළිය වුණාත් එයා ලංකාවේ ලෑබ් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි ඉනරඩිය ලෝ එකේ අපි කියනවා foreign source එක tax exempt වෙනවා. foreign source එක tax exempt. ඒ නිසා මෙයා ලංකාවේ tax වෙන්නේ නැහැ 24 even he is resident the income is foreign source. foreign source එකෙන් යාට tax exempt වෙන්න ගන්න පුළුවන්. schedule 3 එකේදී කියනවා foreign source of income is tax exempt. right? ඒ නිසා තමයි ලංකාවේ රට ගියා. ඒ දවස්වල ඒ කාලේ එකරව ටැක්ස් උන්නේ නැත්තේ. නැත්නම් හරියට ටැක්ස් එන්න ඕන දවස් 23ක් යනකම් එයා ලංකාවේ රෙසිඩන්ට්. ඒක ටැක්ස් එන්න ඕන. ෆොරින් සෝස් එකේ ටැක්ස් එක්සම්ප්ෂන් තියෙන හන්දා එයා ලංකාවේ ටැක්ස් එන්නේ. 24 25 වල විතර. right? right. ඉතුරුනේ බලමු ගන්න. ලාභ Kan? Itu kan? Giliran. Pandangan. Auto itu saja. Wah. Auto dalam. Mana dia apa kan? Itu mana auto itu ya? Pandangan. Ada nada. ඔතන වෙලාවට නැද්ද නැත්නම් මේ මොනවද අපි උදේ ආගම